The year was 2132, and Earth was peaceful. People from all countries worked together. Humans had built cities in space and were exploring distant moons. Everyone thought the future looked bright. William Carter sat in his office at the United Space Command building in Denver. He had gray hair and tired eyes that had seen 40 years of service. Today, he watched the screens showing the Europa colony, humanity's first attempt to live on Jupiter's moon. The colony had been sending back good news for months. Then, screens went black. William leaned forward, pressing buttons on his control panel. Europa Base, this is Earth Command. Please respond. Nothing happened. Then the screens flickered, and William saw blurry images. Large ships with strange shapes hovered over the colony. Beams of light shot down. Buildings exploded. People ran. Then the signal died again. William stood up so fast his chair fell over. "Get me the president," he said to his assistant. 3 days passed. The world's leaders tried to contact the Europa colony, but no one answered. Scientists pointed there. Strongest telescopes at Jupiter's moon, but saw only ruins where the colony had been. On the 4th day, they came to Earth. The ships appeared suddenly, as if they had stepped through invisible doors in space. They were huge, bigger than any building humans had ever made. Dark metal that seemed to swallow light. There were 7 of them, and they positioned themselves over Earth's biggest cities. In San Francisco, Maria Alvarez was teaching a physics class when the room grew dark. She and her students looked out the window and saw the massive ship blocking the sun. Maria was 34, with quick hands and a quicker mind. She had never believed humans were alone in the universe, but she had hoped any visitors would come in peace. "Everyone get to the basement," she said, her voice steady despite her fear. The ship stayed silent for 1 hour. People around the world stood in streets, looking up. Some prayed. Some took pictures. Some tried to leave the city's. Then a message played on every screen, every phone, every radio on Earth. The voice was deep and had a strange accent, as if the speaker had learned English from old recordings. "Humans, you are an evolutionary mistake. Your emotional nature makes you unfit for space travel. You would infect the galaxy with your weakness. We are the Vraxian Dominion. We have judged you and found you lacking. Your correction begins now." The ships opened what looked like doors on their undersides. Objects fell from them, spinning as they dropped toward the cities below. John Kendrick was shopping for groceries in Chicago when the first bomb hit downtown. The building shook. Items fell from shelves. John had been a Marine for 12 years before becoming a police officer. He recognized an attack when he saw one. He was 41, strong, with short brown hair and a scar on his chin from a training accident. "Everyone follow me," he shouted to the confused shoppers. "We need to get underground." The bombs kept falling. Buildings collapsed. Fires spread. The alien ships moved slowly over the cities, methodical in their destruction. William Carter watched from the emergency bunker under the Rocky Mountains as reports came in from around the world. New York was gone. Tokyo was burning. London had been hit so hard the Thames River had changed course. "Sir," a young officer said, "we've launched missiles at the ship over Washington." William nodded, but he already knew it wouldn't work. The Europa colony had tried to defend itself too. The missiles reached the ship over Washington. They exploded against some kind of invisible shield. The ship didn't even move. It continued dropping bombs. Maria Alvarez led her students through the university's tunnel system. The building above them had already been hit twice. Dust fell from the ceiling. People cried. Maria thought about her parents in their house by the bay, her brother and his kids in Oakland. She tried calling them again, but phones weren't working anymore. "We'll be okay," she told a frightened student, though she didn't believe it herself. John Kendrick had gathered about 300 people in the subway tunnels under Chicago. They felt the explosions above. The lights flickered. Some people were hurt, and John organized a few people with medical training to help them. "My daughter is still at school," a woman told John, her eyes wide with panic. "Which school?" John asked. "Lincoln Elementary." "It's 20 blocks north." John knew that area had been hit hard. He also knew he couldn't lie to her. "I'll try to get there," he said, "but you need to stay here where it's safe." The attack continued for 3 days. Not just bombs, but some kind of gas that killed plants and made water undrinkable. Strange robots that hunted people trying to escape the cities. The 4th day, as suddenly as they had arrived, the ships left. They rose into the sky and disappeared. The damage was beyond anything humans had ever experienced. 2 billion people dead. Most major cities destroyed. Farms ruined by the strange gas. Power systems failed around the world. William Carter stood in what remained of the White House. The president had died in the first attack. So had the vice president and most of the government. William was now the highest-ranking official left in North America. "They could have killed us all," said a general who had survived in a bunker like William. "Why did they leave?" "To let us suffer," William said. "Or maybe they think they did enough damage that we'll die out on our own." In the ruins of San Francisco, Maria Alvarez finally made it to where her family's house had been. Nothing remained. Not walls, not furniture, not people. Just ash and twisted metal. She fell to her knees and screamed until her voice gave out. In Chicago, John Kendrick had led his group of survivors to a National Guard armory that was still standing. They found food, weapons, and working radios. John made contact with other survivor groups. They began to organize. 1 month after the attack, the remaining world leaders met in the underground facility in the Himalayas that had somehow escaped notice during the attack. William Carter addressed them. "They think they've won," he said. "They think they've broken us, but they made a mistake. They didn't kill all of us." Maria Alvarez was at the meeting too. The university was gone, but her mind wasn't. She had already started studying a piece of alien technology found in the ruins. "They're more advanced," she said, "but not as much as they think. I can understand this. I can reverse engineer it. Give me time." John Kendrick had been asked to help form a new, unified defense force. "Next time," he told the leaders, "we'll be ready." The Vraxians had made a terrible mistake. They had tried to break humanity. Instead, they had forged it into something new, something harder, something that would never forget or forgive. Earth would never be the same after the massacre. And when humanity recovered, it would show no mercy. 10 years had passed since the day the aliens attacked Earth. The planet was different now. Where once there had been many countries with their own rules and leaders, now there was only one, the United Earth Government. People no longer fought each other over land or money or power. They had a bigger enemy to worry about. Deep under the Himalaya mountains, in a place carved from solid rock, Catherine Hayes walked through busy hallways. She was 52 years old, with streaks of gray in her dark hair. Before the attack, she had been a diplomat who believed in peaceful talks between nations. Now she led the Planetary Defense Initiative, or PDI for short. Catherine entered a large room where 20 people sat around a round table. They were the leaders of Earth's new military, science, and intelligence groups. All of them looked tired. They had been working non-stop for 10 years. "Show me our progress," Catherine said. Maria Alvarez stood up. At 44, her face had new lines around her eyes and mouth. She had not smiled much since finding her family's ashes in San Francisco. She pressed a button, and a 3D image appeared above the table. It showed a ship, sleek and dangerous looking. "The Defender class is ready," Maria said. "We've built 20 so far. They use the engine technology we learned from the Vraxian wreckage. They can travel almost as fast as the alien ships." "Almost isn't good enough," said a man sitting across from her. "We're working with what we have, John," Maria replied. John Kendrick was now 51, his hair completely gray. The scar on his chin was joined by a newer one that ran from his right eye to his ear, a gift from a collapsed building during a rescue mission in the early days after the attack. He led Earth's new military forces. "The ships are good," John said, "but the Vraxians have hundreds, maybe thousands. And they've been doing this for a long time. We're still new at space warfare." "Which is why we won't fight like they expect," Catherine said. "Maria, show them the stealth system." Maria nodded and changed the image. Now they could see the ship had a special outer layer. This coating absorbs radar and light. Combined with our heat-masking technology, our ships can get very close to an enemy before being seen. William Carter watched from his seat at the table. He was older now, his face more lined, his hair thinner. He had given up his position as leader of the Space Command to become an advisor to Catherine. "Will it be enough?" he asked. "It has to." "Be," Catherine said. "The deep space telescopes show Vraxian fleet movements. They're finishing some kind of campaign against another species 3 star systems away. When they're done there, ... double quotes, no one needed her to finish the sentence. The Vraxians had made their intentions clear. They would return to finish what they started far from the meeting room. In a huge underground space, thousands of men and women trained. They wore matching uniforms and moved as one unit. They ran, climbed, fought, and learned to use new weapons. Based on Vraxian technology, a young woman named Lisa Donovan watched from a viewing platform. She was 28 and had been just 18 when the attack happened. She had lost her parents and had been found by John Kendrick's rescue team, half-starved and hiding in the ruins of a library. Now she was one of Earth's most brilliant engineers, working with Maria to design the new ships and weapons. As she watched the soldiers train, she felt a mix of pride and sadness. Humans had never been this united, this focused. But it had taken a terrible tragedy to make it happen. In another part of the underground complex, Daniel Morgan sat surrounded by screens. He was 36, thin, with glasses that kept sliding down his nose. Before the attack, he had been a language professor. Now he led the team trying to understand the Vraxian language from the fragments of communication they had captured. They refer to themselves as the Shapers of Fate, he told his team. They believe it's their right to decide which species live and which die. They've done this before, many times. Back in the meeting room, Catherine finished outlining the plan. 5 more years, she said. In 5 years, we'll have enough ships, enough trained crews, enough weapons. Then we strike first. The Vraxians might come back before then, John said. Our early warning systems will give us at least a month's notice, Maria replied. If they return sooner, we'll have to fight with what we have. William nodded. And the Alpha Centauri outpost? Catherine pulled up a new image showing a distant star system. Our scouts report the Vraxians have a small base there. Just a few ships and a refueling station. It will be our first target when we're ready. As the meeting ended, John and Maria walked together through the hallways. They had become friends over the years, both driven by the memories of what they had lost. Do you ever wonder if we can really win this? Maria asked quietly, making sure no one else could hear. John was silent. For a moment. 10 years ago, I didn't think we would survive the first attack, but we did. We've learned. We've grown stronger. Yes, I think we can win. And after? If we do win, what kind of people will we be? All we've done for 10 years is prepare for war. John had no answer for that. He had seen how humanity had changed. Children born after the attack were raised, learning how to fight, how to survive. They didn't know a world where aliens weren't the enemy. They didn't know what peace felt like. In her private office, Catherine Hayes looked at the only personal item she kept there, a photo of her husband and daughter, both killed in the attack on Boston. We're almost ready, she whispered to the picture. Soon we'll make them pay for what they did to you, for what they did to all of us. Outside the underground complex, on the surface of Earth, cities were being rebuilt. But they didn't look like the cities before the attack. They were built to withstand bombardment. Buildings went deep underground. Defense systems pointed it. The sky. Earth was preparing. The Vraxians had taught humanity a harsh lesson. When they returned, expecting to find a broken, cowering species waiting for death, they would instead find something new. A unified planet with one purpose, one mind, one goal: revenge. 15 years had passed since the Vraxians attacked Earth. The day had finally come. Earth was ready to strike back. In the large underground hangar, Admiral Samuel Wright walked along the row of ships. He was tall with dark skin and a serious face that rarely smiled. At 48, he had been chosen to lead Earth's first attack against the Vraxians. He stopped in front of the largest ship, named Vengeance. It would be his command vessel. Are they ready? Asked Catherine Hayes, who walked beside him. She was older now, her hair completely white, but her eyes were as sharp as ever. As ready as they'll ever be, Samuel said. The crews have trained in simulations for years, but nothing can fully prepare them for real combat. Catherine nodded. Maria wants to see you before you leave. Samuel found Maria Alvarez in her lab. At 49, she looked tired. She had worked day and night for 15 years, studying Vraxian technology and creating new weapons for Earth. Her hands shook slightly as she handed Samuel a small metal box. This is the stealth system control, she said. It will make your ships almost invisible until you're very close to the enemy. But it uses a lot of power. You can't run it and the main weapons at the same time. So we get close using stealth, then switch to weapons, Samuel said. Understood. Maria grabbed his arm. Be careful, Sam. These ships are the best we could make, but the Vraxians have been fighting space battles for centuries. Samuel put his hand over hers. They had become close over the years of working together. We'll come back, he promised. That night, the fleet of 12 Earthships rose from hidden bases around the planet. They moved silently, their new engines barely visible as they left Earth's atmosphere. Their target was a Vraxian outpost near Alpha Centauri, the closest star system to Earth. On board the Vengeance, Samuel sat in the command chair. Around him, men and women worked at control stations. They were young, most born after the attack. They had grown up in an Earth focused on revenge. Engage faster than light drive, Samuel ordered. The stars outside the view screen blurred, and the ship jumped forward at incredible speed. The other ships followed. Thanks to Maria's work with the salvaged Vraxian technology, the journey that would once have taken years would now take only days. During the journey, Samuel studied the battle plans. The Vraxian outpost was small, with only 3 or 4 ships. Normally present, it was used mainly for refueling. Earth ships would approach using stealth, then launch a surprise attack. If we succeed, Samuel told his officers, we'll not only destroy an enemy base, but we'll also capture their navigational data. We'll learn where their other bases are, maybe even find their homeworld. After 4 days of travel, the Earth fleet arrived at Alpha Centauri. They stayed far from the system's sun, using its light to hide their approach. The Vraxian base orbited the system's third planet. "Stealth systems active," reported a young officer named Alan Beck. "They don't see us." Samuel leaned forward. The view screen, he could see the Vraxian base. It was a huge ring-shaped structure with docking arms where ships could attach. Currently, there were 3 Vraxian vessels docked there. "Just as our scouts reported," Samuel said. "Prepare attack formation. All ships maintain stealth until my signal." The Earth fleet spread out, surrounding the Vraxian base. Samuel felt his heart beating fast. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for since the attack, their first strike back. "We're in position, sir," Alan said. Samuel took a deep breath. "All ships, drop stealth and engage weapons. Fire on my mark." He paused, thinking of all those who had died in the attack on Earth. Fire! The Earth ships appeared suddenly around the Vraxian base, seeming to come out of nowhere as they dropped their stealth fields. Energy beams shot from their weapons, striking the unprepared Vraxian ships and the base itself. The Vraxian ships tried to respond, but they were caught by surprise. One exploded immediately. Another managed to fire back, hitting one of the smaller Earth ships. But then it too was destroyed by concentrated fire from 3 Earth vessels. The battle was quick and one-sided. Within 20 minutes, the Vraxian base was heavily damaged, and all their ships were destroyed. "Send in the boarding teams," Samuel ordered. "I want that base captured intact if possible. We need their data." Earth soldiers in spacesuits flew across to the damaged base. They encountered some Vraxian defenders, but the aliens were confused and disorganized. For the first time, humans saw their enemy up close. The Vraxians were tall with gray skin and 4 arms. They fought fiercely, but were outnumbered. 2 hours later, the base was secured. Earth technicians downloaded the Vraxian computer systems. They found star charts, communications, and detailed records of Vraxian fleet movements. And they found something else. A living Vraxian, injured but alive, hiding in a storage room. It was the first Vraxian ever captured by humans. "Bring it aboard," Samuel ordered. "Full restraints and guards at all times." The Vraxian, who they would later learn was called Xat, was brought to the Vengeance's secure holding cell. It watched the humans with 4 black eyes, showing no fear. Samuel stood outside the cell, looking at the creature responsible for billions of human deaths. He wanted to kill it, but he knew the information it might provide was too valuable. "You," the Vraxian said in a strange clicking voice. It had a translation device attached to its neck. "You are from Earth." "Yes," Samuel replied, surprised it could speak. "Impossible," the Vraxian said. "Earth was cleansed. You should be extinct or hiding in caves." Samuel stepped closer to the cell. "We're not as weak as you thought, and we've spent 15 years preparing for this day." The Vraxian made a sound that might have been laughter. "The Dominion spans 100 star systems. You have destroyed 1 small outpost. This means nothing." "This is just the beginning," Samuel said. "Tell your leaders, Earth remembers what you did to us, and we're coming for you." Before the Earth fleet left, Samuel ordered a message broadcast on all Vraxian frequencies. "You came to Earth. You murdered our children. You thought us weak. Remember this day." The fleet returned to Earth with their prize, the captured Vraxian data, and their prisoner. When they arrived, crowds gathered outside the underground bases. News of the victory spread quickly. In the main command center, Catherine Hayes looked at the star maps they had captured. For the first time, they had a complete picture of the Vraxian Empire. It was vast, but not unbeatable. "Now we know where to hit them next," she said. Maria Alvarez studied the Vraxian technology they had brought back. It would help her improve Earth's weapons even more. John Kendrick interrogated the Vraxian prisoner, learning about their tactics and weaknesses. The first strike had been successful beyond their hopes. Earth had shown it was no longer a victim. Now it was a hunter dot, and the Vraxians, for the first time, knew fear. 5 years had passed since Earth's first victory against the Vraxians. The war had changed. Humans were no longer just defending themselves. They were attacking Vraxian bases and outposts across nearby star systems. Lisa Donovan stood in her laboratory, now 38 years old. Screens around her showed complex code sequences. For the past 3 years, she had been working on something that could change the course of the war, a computer virus designed to infiltrate Vraxian ships. "Is it ready?" asked Daniel Morgan, who had entered the lab quietly. At 41, his hair was starting to gray at the temples, and he had given up wearing glasses in favor of eye surgery. "Almost," Lisa said. "I've been studying their computer language from the data we captured. Their systems are advanced, but have weaknesses. They never expected anyone to attack them this way." Daniel nodded. As Earth's leading expert on Vraxian language and culture, he had worked closely with Lisa on the project. "The prisoner has been helpful," he said. "The Vraxian called Xat had been in human custody for 5 years. At first, it had refused to speak, expecting to be killed. But over time, it had begun to talk with Daniel, who had learned its language." "What do you think?" Lisa asked. "Can we trust anything it tells us?" Daniel was quiet for a moment. "I think Xat is different from the others. It's been watching us, learning about humans. I think it's starting to question what its people did." In another part of the underground complex, Admiral Samuel Wright met with Catherine Hayes and John Kendrick to plan their next mission. Maps of Vraxian territory covered the walls. "Their response has been slower than expected," Samuel said. "We've hit 12 of their outposts, and they still haven't launched a major counterattack. They're spread too thin," John explained. "From the data we've captured, we know they're fighting wars on at least 3 fronts against other species. They didn't expect us to become a threat so quickly." Catherine pointed to a star system on the far edge of the map. "Our scouts have found something interesting here. It's not a Vraxian world, but they have a large presence there. We think it might be a planet they recently conquered." Samuel studied the information. "If we attack there, we might find allies. Other species who hate the Vraxians as much as we do." "Exactly," Catherine said. "And according to Xat, the Vraxians aren't as united as they want us to believe. They're a coalition of conquered species ruled by the original Vraxians. Some might turn against their masters if given the chance." In the special holding area where Cosette lived, Daniel arrived for his daily conversation with the alien. Over the years, the cell had been modified to make it more comfortable, with furniture adjusted for Vraxian physiology. The humans prepare for another attack, Xat in its clicking language, which Daniel now understood without a translator. "Yes," Daniel replied, "against a world where your people have conquered others." Xat made a gesture with its 4 arms that Daniel had come to recognize as something like a shrug. "The Dominion always expands. It is our way, even if it means destroying entire civilizations." Xat was quiet for a moment. "I have watched your broadcasts, your history. Humans also conquered each other, destroyed each other." "Yes," Daniel admitted, "but we changed. We learned, we united." "Because of us," Xat said. "Without the cleansing, you would still fight among yourselves." Daniel couldn't argue with that. The attack had indeed united humanity, as nothing else could have. "But that doesn't justify what your people did." "No," Xat said, surprising Daniel. "It does not." On the other side of the complex, Maria Alvarez, now 54, worked with a team preparing the fleet for its next mission. She had designed new weapons based on Vraxian technology that could penetrate their shields more effectively. Admiral Wright wants the ships ready in 3 days, she told her team. The Interceptor and the Vigilant need the new shield modifications before they leave. One of her assistants, a young engineer named Ben Foster, looked concerned. The power systems are still unstable with the new configurations. We need more time for testing. Maria shook her head. We don't have more time. The Vraxians are starting to react to our attacks. They've sent for their main battle fleet under Commander Drax Ure. The name sent a chill through the room. From captured communications, they had learned that Drax Ure was the Vraxians' most successful military leader, responsible for the conquest of dozens of worlds. In the main command center, Catherine Hayes received an urgent message from one of Earth's scout ships patrolling the edge of the solar system. Madam Director, the captain's voice came through with static. We've detected unusual activity near Neptune's orbit. Something is disrupting space there. Catherine immediately called John and Samuel to the command center. They watched as the scout ship sent back images of what looked like ripples in space itself. What are we seeing? Catherine asked. I think, Samuel said slowly, they're testing a new way to reach our solar system. Some kind of faster travel than we've seen before. How long do we have? John asked. Samuel shook his head. I don't know. Weeks, maybe months. Catherine made a quick decision. Move up the mission timetable. We need to find allies before Drax Ure arrives. 3 days later, a fleet of 20 Earth ships prepared to leave for the distant system, where they hoped to find potential allies against the Vraxians. Admiral Wright would lead the main fleet, while a smaller group of ships stayed behind to defend Earth. Just before departure, Lisa Donovan rushed to the hangar with a small data device. It's ready, she told Samuel. The virus. If you can get it into their main communication relay on that planet, it will spread to any Vraxian ship that connects to it. Samuel took the device carefully. Good work, Lisa. This could change everything. As the fleet prepared to leave, Daniel Morgan arrived with a surprising request. I want to bring Zeet, he said. It knows this system. It can help us navigate and might help us communicate with the species there. Samuel was skeptical. Can we trust it? I don't know, Daniel admitted, but I think it's starting to see things differently after living among us. And if we're going to build alliances with other species, having a Vraxian who's turned against its own kind would be powerful. Catherine made the final decision. Bring it, but keep it under guard at all times. The Earth fleet departed, leaving behind a planet preparing for a possible Vraxian counterattack. Maria Alvarez watched the ships disappear into the darkness of space. They'll be back, John Kendrick said, standing beside her. Maria nodded. They have to be, because if Drax Ure arrives before they return. John finished her thought. Then everything we've built might not be enough. The Shadow War had lasted 5 years. Earth had struck hard and fast, never engaging in full battles, but instead using surprise and stealth. But now the real test was coming. The Vraxians were bringing their full might to bear, and Earth would need every ally it could find to survive what was coming. 25 years had passed since the Vraxians first attacked Earth. The day everyone had been preparing for had finally arrived. Drax Ure's armada entered the solar system with over 100 ships. They moved toward Earth with confidence, expecting an easy victory. Catherine Hayes stood in Earth's main command center. At 77, she was older now, her body weaker, but her mind was as sharp as ever. Around her, screens showed the approaching Vraxian fleet. They've taken the bait, she said. Admiral Wright's fleet is nowhere to be seen. Drax Ure thinks we've left Earth defenseless. John Kendrick, now 66, nodded. His hair was completely white, and old battle scars crossed his face. Are we ready? As ready as we'll ever be, Maria Alvarez replied. At 69, she had lived to see her life's work completed. The Nemesis network is fully operational. All platforms are active, but hidden. For the past 10 years, Maria had been building Earth's ultimate defense system. Orbital platforms equipped with powerful weapons had been placed around the planet, disguised as satellites or space debris. On the ground, massive cannons were hidden under fake mountains and in the oceans. And the wormhole device? Catherine asked. Lisa Donovan, now 43, checked her screens, stable and ready. If Admiral Wright activates it from his end, the fleet will return exactly as planned. The Vraxian ships move closer to Earth. On the command ship, Drax Ur watched the blue planet grow larger on his view screen. He was older than most Vraxians, his gray skin wrinkled and scarred from many battles. He had conquered 32 worlds in his long career. Scans show minimal defenses, one of his officers reported. Their fleet is gone, probably trying to attack one of our core worlds. Drax Ur made a sound of satisfaction. They are predictable. Begin the bombardment. This time, we will not leave until every human is dead. The Vraxian ships spread out around Earth, moving into position for attack. They did not hurry. They saw no threat dot in the command center. Catherine gave a small nod. To Maria, Nemesis network activating now, Maria said, pressing her hand against a scanner. Across Earth and in orbit, things began to change. The fake satellites transformed, revealing weapons. The ground opened in hundreds of locations as huge cannons rose toward the sky. The oceans churned as platforms emerged from the depths. On the Vraxian ships, alarms began to sound. What is happening? Draxior demanded. Where are these weapons coming from? Before his officers could answer, the first shots were fired. Beams of energy from Earth's surface struck several Vraxian ships at once. The orbital platforms fired next, hitting the ships from above. Caught by surprise, 3 Vraxian vessels exploded immediately. Return fire, Draxior ordered. Destroy those weapons. The Vraxian ships began firing at Earth, but they were met with powerful shields. For 10 years, humans had been building layered defenses around their planet. The Vraxian weapons could not break through easily. Lisa, now, Catherine ordered. Lisa activated her virus. It traveled through the communication signals the Vraxians were using to coordinate their attack. One by one, Vraxian ships began to lose control of their weapons and engines. They're confused, John said, watching the battle unfold. But it won't last long. Drax Ur is too experienced. He'll adapt. He won't have time, Catherine replied. She opened a communication channel. Admiral Wright now. Far away, near the star system where Earth had found allies, Admiral Samuel Wright received Catherine's signal. At 63, he had become humanity's greatest space commander. Beside him stood Daniel Morgan and the Vraxian, Zatz. Activate the wormhole, Samuel ordered. A strange circle of light appeared in space ahead of them. It grew larger, showing stars that were not in this part of space. It was a doorway back to Earth, created by Lisa's newest invention. All ships, follow me, Samuel said. Remember the plan. Hit them from behind. The Earth fleet of 50 ships, along with 30 ships from their new allies, flew through the wormhole. In an instant, they were behind Drax Ur's armada, the Vraxians, already struggling with Earth's defenses and the virus affecting their systems, now faced attack from behind. They tried to turn and fight, but they were caught in a deadly trap. Samuel opened a channel to Drax Ur's ship. This is Admiral Samuel Wright of Earth. You are surrounded. On his command ship, Drax Ur could not believe what was happening. Half his fleet was already destroyed or disabled. Earth, which should have been an easy target, had somehow become a fortress. How is this possible? He demanded. You were a primitive species. You taught us well, Samuel replied. You showed us what happens to the weak. So we decided not to be weak anymore. Catherine Hayes joined the communication. This is Director Hayes of Earth's Planetary Defense Initiative. Your fleet is defeated, Draxur. Surrender now. Draxur roared in anger. Vraxians do not surrender. We will fight to the last ship. As you wish, Catherine said. She nodded to John, who gave the order for all weapons to fire at once. The space around Earth became filled with explosions as more Vraxian ships were destroyed. Some tried to escape, but the Earth fleet and their allies cut off all retreat paths. On Samuel's ship, Xat watched the destruction of the Armada. Over the years, it had come to understand humans better. It had seen how they could be both fierce and merciful, both vengeful and forgiving. Your people have changed the balance of power, Xat told Daniel. No species has ever defeated the Dominion like this. We had good reasons to fight, Daniel replied, and good friends to help us. He nodded to the alien ships fighting alongside. Earth's fleet. After 3 hours of battle, it was over. Draxur's ship was the last to fall, refusing surrender until the end. Of the 100 Vraxian ships that had entered the solar system, none escaped. In the command center, Catherine Hayes watched the final explosions fade away. Send the message, she told Maria. Maria activated the long-range communication system they had built. It sent a message to the Vraxian homeworld, showing the destruction of their fleet and offering terms: surrender or face the same fate. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Vraxians faced defeat. The species that had once attacked Earth with such confidence now had to decide: accept peace on human terms or risk extinction. 1 week later, Catherine Hayes stood before the United Earth Council. She was tired after the long battle, but proud of what humanity had accomplished. The Vraxian leadership has agreed to our terms, she announced. They will withdraw from all conquered worlds and pay reparations for the damage they caused. An old council member stood up. Can we trust them to keep their word after what they did to us? It was John Kendrick who answered. We don't have to trust them. We now have allies throughout the galaxy and weapons that can reach their homeworld. They know if they break the agreement, we will show no mercy. And what now? Another council member asked. We've spent 25 years preparing for war. What do we do in peace? Catherine smiled for the first time in many years. We rebuild. We explore. We help our new allies recover from Vraxian rule. And we make sure that what happened to Earth never happens to anyone else. Earth had been forever changed by the massacre 25 years ago. From the ashes of that terrible day, a new human civilization had risen stronger, more united and ready to take its place among the stars, not as conquerors like the Vraxians, but as protectors, as the species that had learned the hardest lesson of all, that strength without mercy leads to destruction, but strength with justice leads to peace. Earth would never be the same, and the galaxy would be better for it.